Hello, dear passenger. This is your captain speaking, and we are about to take off for another episode of Adventulina. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Adventulina, hopefully your favorite travel podcast. Hope you guys had a nice week, hope you had a nice month, and I hope you're ready for another travel dose, and I hope this will bring a little joy to your day, maybe even your week. So your captain is back from a trip, this time a little shorter and a little closer, meaning it was here in California. As you guys know, in between my bigger trips for the year, I like to fill in my time with some close destinations, some road trips. So last week I headed to Joshua Tree National Park with some friends and we spent a long weekend there. Weather was perfect, definitely better than I expected. Got a little sunburned, but overall perfect for hikes. We did a few hikes, we checked out the most popular spots in the park and the ones, of course, we were interested in because, for 2 or 3 days, you don't have time to see everything anywhere. So we also enjoyed our nice Airbnb for some barbecue dinners and some jacuzzi time. And I would say Joshua Tree National Park surprised me in a good way. I knew I was gonna like it, but it turned out to be better than I could imagine. As a nature lover, I would say I enjoyed the rocks the most. Since last year, after I came back from Sedona, I do compare most of the rocks I see to the rocks there. I guess because I really liked Sedona. I was really impressed by it. But anyway, highly recommend Joshua Tree National Park to everyone, not just in California, but to everyone who loves nature and wants to see something different. Don't forget that this part of the country is the only place in the world where you can see Joshua trees. I think that's enough of a reason for everyone to want to go there, right? So at the beginning of the episode, I will take a moment to remind you guys to go get your free travel planner for 2024. Yes, as you remember, I created a travel planner available for free download and use, so you just have to visit my website, ADVENTULINA.com, and sign up for my newsletter, which I call Adventure Letter, and you can get this for free. It will help you organize your trips and stay on top of all the details you need for them. I was talking to a friend a few days ago and she was telling me how she already uses the packing sheet from my travel planner and she was super happy with it. I was like, damn, go for it, girl. She was telling me how before she would just open her suitcase and throw things in there, literally having no idea what she's going to wear or use. And this hurts my soul. Like, seeing an open suitcase, there is a mess inside, brings tears to my eyes. I'm not joking. It also gives me anxiety, I'm not gonna lie. My mind immediately goes to, how do you find things if you're in a rush? For example, how do you know if you took something or not? I don't know. Also, a messy suitcase is a waste of space because when you randomly throw things in your luggage, you don't take advantage of the space inside and you're using more than needed. I'm also pretty paranoid about my luggage in general. I think the people who know me very well know that. My biggest fear in life is that I'm going to check bags and they will not arrive at my final destination. I repeat, they will not arrive at my final destination. Laugh as much as you want, but if you haven't experienced it, you have no goddamn right to judge. So I do keep an AirTag in my suitcase, of course, even if it's not checked in. I might be dragging it all over with me, but I will still have my AirTag inside. I don't care. The funny part is that sometimes I have it right above my head, during a flight in the overhead bins, and I would still check my phone in case. Like, God forbid, it shows the luggage is not around. How can that happen? What else can it be? Like, I can physically see it sometimes, and I would still check and be like, I want to make sure that's mine. Sometimes I'm on a bus and I would still track my luggage to make sure it's actually in the vehicle. Because what if the goddamn thing opened and a few suitcases dropped on the road and we didn't notice, This shit can happen. And with my luck, believe me, one of the dropped suitcases will be mine. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. I actually know how my paranoia started. I was on my way back from the States to Bulgaria after my second summer in Massachusetts as a J1 student, meaning we went to the US to work for the summer and then travel in our vacation period, and then we were going back home. So Since it was my second summer, participating in the program, I already knew that it was pointless to bring many things with me from Bulgaria on my way to the States. We just needed some essentials, and the rest we were going to buy there. Plus, it was better to only bring clothes that we were going to throw away at the end of the summer because they were going to be worn off from long shifts of working. And since there was not much time for partying, as the second year we wanted to work more and save more for traveling, we didn't need any fancy outfits either. So perfect, less and less to pack, I remember I left Bulgaria with a small gym bag, which was everything I brought here for 4+ months back then. This whole thing was also perfect for another reason. At the time, I didn't own a big suitcase to travel with. I actually borrowed one for my first trip to the US, as I didn't have anything that big. Until that time, I never needed to pack for such a long period, So the second time I left for the US, I purposely wanted to come here with just a bag, and I was planning on buying suitcases and filling them up with clothes on my way back. So the less I take to the States, the more I will bring back to Bulgaria. Whoop, whoop. And while this was a great plan, it also has its flaws. So when you know you have so much space to fill up, you kind of go crazy and keep buying shit until you realize that you're out of the large space you thought you had. And that's exactly what happened to me. During the whole summer, I kept buying stuff, being absolutely sure that I'm not even close to the weight limit. The things I bought, you guys, like literally stuff that makes literally no sense. I remember bringing back to Bulgaria a potato peeler shaped as a real potato. Like also a cooking timer shaped like a cow. Like at the time, I didn't even have my own place and I definitely wasn't even cooking a lot. But just seeing some cool stuff that I wouldn't be able to find in Bulgaria made me buy a ton of unnecessary shit. Of course, we do have potato peelers and cooking timers in Bulgaria, but they're usually just, one design and they're boring. I had never seen cows and potatoes until then in the shape of potato peeler or, cooking timer. So I'm like, I want them. But anyway, towards the end of the summer, I knew I was close to having to pay extra to get my stuff to Bulgaria. We were also on our way to Los Angeles, and the year before, we had gone to some outlets there and got some great stuff, so I knew shopping wasn't done yet. I specifically remember telling my friend, don't let me buy anything, I literally have no space, and I'm pretty sure I got a few things, thinking now, I remember I got some stuff and I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure out later how to pack this shit. So yeah, get to the point already, Jesus. This thing is important for the end of the story, by the way. It was the end of the summer, as I said. Here I was with, my new fancy suitcases full of my new clothes that I hadn't even worn because, I was saving them for partying in Bulgaria. Literally my whole summer was in that luggage. I was excited to go home and, wear my new stuff. We were already at the airport and it turned out we were even the first people to check for our flight and to check our luggage. So we had some free time, it was perfect. Then got on a flight to Detroit and there we were, going to have a connection flight to Paris and then Paris-Sofia. Sofia is the capital of Bulgaria, for those of you who don't know. And of course, when you have 3 flights to your final destination, when you check in your luggage, the crew always asks you if you want the bags received at your final destination, which makes the most sense because you don't have to go to the baggage claim after each flight and you don't have to drag your stuff all the way to the check desk again so you can, check them one more time. It just doesn't make sense unless you have something you really, really need from your checked-in luggage or you have a really long layover after some of your flights and you are planning on spending some time outside of the airport or stuff like that. So with 3 upcoming flights and no plans of leaving any of the airports we are going to be on, we gladly agreed to, seek our luggage at our final destination, Sofia, Bulgaria. At the time, that seemed like the most logical decision and even felt like they were doing us a favor because we were getting rid of hundreds of pounds of luggage, literally. Because yes, that's what happens when you are a girl in your 20s and you have the freedom to buy whatever the hell you want. And also when you work at 2 retail stores, this didn't help at all. But anyway, we got on our first flight from Los Angeles to Detroit. Put your hands up for Detroit, our lovely city. Don't laugh, this song was huge back in the days. Okay, grandma, back to the story. So we landed in Detroit. We spent a few hours at the airport waiting to leave for Paris. I even remember I was super impressed by the train at the airport that was going through all the terminals literally above our heads. You could observe it from your waiting seats. It was very cool to me at the time. So we boarded our second flight, Detroit-Paris, and after 10 plus hours, we were approaching the ground. Excitement was kind of building up because we were a few hours away from, seeing our loved ones. We were going home finally. Once we landed, we were ready to get out and literally run to our next gate as we didn't have a really long connection time. From what I remember, it was about maybe an hour or hour and something. And while this sounds like, plenty of time for other things, believe me, it's definitely not plenty of time for catching flights sometimes. At least not on Charles de Gaulle, one of the most complicated and stressful airports in my opinion. So we were ready to leave the plane and run to our next flight. However, the universe had a different plan. After a few minutes of nothing happening and everyone wondering why the door of the plane is still closed, it was clear that something was wrong. The captain announced that they have an issue adjusting the sleeve to the door. Perfect. Exactly what we needed at a moment when we are trying to leave as fast as possible. So it was about 15 or 20 minutes later, and we started understanding, the risk of missing our next flight. We had maybe 30 minutes or something like that to get off this plane, go past security again, and run to our other gate. It started to kind of look impossible. As classic Bulgarians, we started complaining out loud to people, and we were actually hoping, for the people around us to hear us. And thank God they did. And they were mostly people older than us who kind of felt really empathetic and kind of started encouraging us. They literally let us go before them and made room for us to get off the plane first. And as you can imagine, on a plane with 180 plus people, every foot ahead matters, trust me, when you're missing your flight. They finally adjusted the goddamn sleeve to the airplane door, and here we were, pushing people, giving elbows left and right, sneaking through the crowd in a desperate attempt to arrive home after 4 plus months. We ran like maniacs and made it through security as we had to go through it one more time and headed to the gate. Despite checking in my big suitcase, I still had so many other pieces of luggage, you guys. It was like crazy, and I was surprised how they even let me fly with all of them, honestly. I remember I had a backpack, a gym bag, and a laptop bag. And I guess the backpack was considered a personal item, the gym bag was my carry-on piece, and the laptop they probably didn't even see, as I made sure the gym bag covered it. But anyway, even without my big suitcase, I still looked like a donkey, and I had to carry a weight that it's not very pleasant when you're running and trying to get somewhere faster. Somewhere in between all this, I also had a neck pillow hanging. I just don't remember where. I looked like a Christmas tree. So it was a new one, color baby blue, my favorite. I had just got it. And we were running, and this freaking pillow somehow dropped on the floor. I had to stop in the crowd and put all my energy left so I could squat and pick it up. I felt like I was at the Olympic Games, You're lifting weights and you're trying so hard to get up with all this shit on your shoulders. And that's how I felt. It was painful to stand up once you squat. I looked like a Christmas tree, but instead of Christmas tree ornaments, I had bags all over my body. I tried to pick up the goddamn pillow, but I couldn't because the rest of my bags were moving around my body. They were falling down. And some nice fella, God bless you, probably noticed the struggle of this red as a lobster girl. He came and picked up the pillow for me, and I was like, wow, there's still nice people left out there. The amount of gratitude I felt at this moment. I wanted to shed a tear and tell him God bless, but I didn't have time. I didn't have time for that. I had a flight to catch. So I'm pretty sure I mumbled something like thank you, and I took off. Next thing I know, my friend was gone. She didn't notice in the crowd that I stopped to pick up something, and she kept running without me. And I was standing in the middle of the terminal, looking like a Christmas tree, sweating like a pig, and literally asking myself, now what? And remember, this is 2013. We had just bought our first smartphones, and we didn't even have a service there as we were, going to use them in Bulgaria. So we basically had them for taking photos and checking what time it was. In other words, we had no way to find each other through them. And I stayed there for a minute trying to find my friend. I was looking for her blonde hair. Wow, thanking God she was blonde, as it seemed easier to recognize her with this hair color at the moment. But after a minute not seeing her and literally panicking, I was like, okay, my bitch is smart. What would she do in this case? Like, let's say she cannot find me either. What would she do? I would just go to the gate and wait for her there. And I think she's gonna do the same. She had probably done it already. So I ran to the gate and there she was. One big red face, sweating from the running and worried for her friend, meaning me. We were so thrilled that our telepathy worked again, as many other times before. We approached the people who were scanning the boarding passes, and it looked like we made it at the last moment. Right when we were handing the lady our passes to scan, my friend said, my jacket. I forgot my jacket at security. A second of silence. For the protocol, this jacket was some fancy leather thing that she had found for an unimaginable price, and she really, really loved it. It was clear she was gonna go back for it, and, I didn't blame her. She said, I have to take it. I understood. We turned to the crew member and said, we forgot something at the security. How much time do we have to go back and get it? You have 5 minutes until we close the doors. 5 minutes sounded like absolutely no time for anything. But my friend and I looked at each other and we already knew we were gonna try. So my friend said, I'm going. And I said, okay, I'll be waiting for you here. I'm not getting on the plane without you. And this was enough for both of us. Next thing I know, my friend dived into the crowd and I lost her from my sight. Damn, this sounds a little dramatic, but it kind of was. We had been at different airports for probably 24 plus hours at the time. We were tired, we were sleepy, angry, and everything was way more sensitive. And while I was waiting for her, I actually noticed that my neck pillow is gone again. I was like, damn, like after the inhumane effort I put to pick it up, and after I lost my friend at the airport because of that shit got lost again? Whatever. I had no energy for this. I remember those 5 minutes waiting for my friend to find her jacket felt so much longer. I felt like I stayed in front of the gate for at least 20 minutes. I was just staring at the crowd, hoping to see my friend so, we can get on the plane together. Towards the 4th minute, the flight attendant asked me, we're closing the doors pretty soon, are you getting on the plane? And I just said, no, not without my friend. I just kept staring at the crowd, desperately looking for her, and oh miracle, there she was, making her way among an avalanche of people, pushing everything around her. And it was so funny. It did look like a bowling lane. She was the ball and the people were, how do you call those things you have to push with a ball at bowling? Kegglers? Is that a word? But yeah, she was making her way through everyone and I could see her insanely red face, a combination of anger and physical struggle. She was holding the jacket though. She made it. Yep. She made it. We made it. We were on. The door closed. What a relief. Like, I just remember I needed a few minutes to slow my pulse down and to stop shaking. As we were, the last people to board the plane, you can imagine there was almost no room in the overhead bins for our luggage. And we were, taking a little longer to find a space for our stuff. So some people were getting annoyed and even their faces looked very pissed off at us. And it was just a moment that neither of us wanted to be approached. It wasn't a moment for anyone to mess with us. We were so exhausted and angry. We were ready to kill. But it was okay. We were on our way home. The worst part was behind us. We were on the last plane home. This was it, is what we thought. Little did we know there was going to be another pleasant surprise. So we landed in Sofia, Bulgaria, and we headed to the baggage claim to pick up our checked-in luggage. We were standing there, waiting and waiting, looking at everyone else taking their suitcases from the belt, and minute after minute, we were getting more and more impatient. Where the hell are these bags? All of a sudden, we were the last people to stand next to the belt, and the belt just stopped. It stopped moving. We looked at each other, and we already knew this shit wasn't over. Just because we successfully made it to the flight and successfully landed at our final destination didn't mean that we were safe from bullshit happening. So we waited for a few more minutes, hoping for the bell to start moving again. And, at this point, it was clear that our bags were not coming. It was just the perfect end of this trip, I would say. It wasn't enough that we hadn't slept for I don't know how many hours, 30 plus at this point. It wasn't enough that we barely made it to our last flight. But now we didn't even have our luggage, and we were afraid that 4+ months were basically lost. Our suitcases, full of the stuff we were buying during the 4th-month trip, were nowhere around. The feeling really sucks. It does suck because you're just like, who and when will tell us where they are? So we headed straight to information and filed a claim. I remember we were even kind of rude to the staff there. At the time, we didn't, have a lot of experience flying, and we weren't really aware that the people at the last airport had absolutely no fault for our lost luggage. The problem was because of the previous airports we had been on, but as I said, at the time, we didn't know who to blame, and we, of course, blamed the people in Bulgaria straight. And it's actually always, the first ones to blame, but never mind. After some checking and tracking, it turned out the luggage was still in Paris. It never made it to Sofia, so, at least we knew where it was. So that was an advantage. It was found, and that was enough of a relief at this point. We just left the airport expecting to receive it in the next 5 days. And there is something really not cool about coming home from such a long trip, waiting to finally put on your nice clothes for a party, and not having any of them. I was so excited to be back and to immediately go out with my friends, to catch up on the nightlife, to party like only we could. And it kind of sucked that I couldn't dress up the way I wanted. I couldn't put any of my stuff, Back then, being younger and having different priorities, I guess, it was important for us to wear our new clothes, to show off what we had, to show off what we bought with our own money. And, stuff like that. Well, in 5 days, we received our suitcases and we had everything we bought. But this whole thing, the whole situation and the moment at the baggage claim and when it stopped, this whole thing left a scar on me, guys. Literally after this, I became so paranoid about my luggage that I would avoid checking bags at any price. And I would act so weird that airport staff would start questioning my sanity. Although this story had a good ending, our bags weren't technically lost, they were delayed, it made me lose trust in the whole checking bag thing. Until today, I experience real anxiety when I have to check bags, and I'm not even joking, literally. I just recall the feeling of not seeing my suitcase on the baggage claim, and I immediately freak out. Until today, I just hate checking bags. I literally only do it when I absolutely have to. When I travel somewhere for a long period of time, for example, or literally when I cannot avoid it. I know now tracking is even easier and more advanced, and it's way harder to actually lose luggage with all barcodes and scanning and guaranteed stuff and people putting tracking devices on their own. It's really hard to lose something, but I don't trust anyone. Not when it comes to my luggage. And to tell you guys how bad it is, I will give you a couple of examples on the level of anxiety I experience when I have to check out bags. And please don't judge me, just bear with me. So, it had been maybe 5 years since Air France traumatized me. During those 5 years, I only checked in luggage once and I was sharing it with other people, so I guess I was calm that it's not just my luck this time, it's theirs as well. And, if they have luck, this will bring some luck to me too, which means bringing luck to our shared suitcase and we're not gonna lose it. Yeah, logic equal to 0 here, but anyway. It had been maybe 5 years since Air France traumatized me, and I was on my way to San Francisco, coming for an internship program. I was gonna stay here for like 5 months, 5.5, and I brought pretty much 90% of the clothes I owned at the time. Well, a little exaggerated, but I definitely brought way more things than I needed. Not to mention that half of them were absolutely inappropriate for the San Francisco weather. But anyway, it was time for my flights. Sofia, London, London, San Francisco. I remember dropping off my luggage at the Virgin Atlantic counter, and I had all my belongings for the next 5 months there. And there was the PTSD. It was hitting me. The sweet woman from Virgin Atlantic, she weighed my suitcase and said, "Straight to San Francisco, right?" I made a big pause. I wasn't sure what to say. Only a freak would ask for their luggage at the middle destination instead of requesting it straight to the final destination. Why would you want to go all the way to the baggage claim, get your bag, and waste more time entering the terminal again and going through TSA again for no reason? It's convenient when you get rid of your checked luggage and you don't have to worry about it until you actually arrive. So the logic and sane answer of this question, straight to San Francisco, right, was yes. But my brain, and the traumatized part of it, wanted to scream no. Send it to London, I'll pick it up there, and I'll check it again. So I made a pause, and I looked at the lady. I looked her deeply in the eyes, with the sweetest look I was capable of. And I said, "You're not going to lose my luggage, are you?" She looked at me a little confused with a smile that was kind of like, what the hell? But she kept calm and said, "No, everything is going to be fine. You're okay. Your luggage is going to go straight to San Francisco." That unfortunately wasn't enough for me. "Are you sure?" I said. And she was, I'm positive, convinced that I was a moron. But I wanted confirmation. I wanted someone to guarantee me that nothing would go wrong. And honestly, I don't care how advanced technology is. I don't care how much you convince me that everything will be okay. I don't care how many 5-star reviews your airline has. I'm gonna ask you at the counter, are you gonna lose my luggage? So yeah, I asked her one more time, "Are you sure you're not going to lose my luggage?" She was very sweet and empathetic. She knew I was traumatized. She could tell. So she assured me one more time that my luggage was going to make it to San Francisco. I was still considering whether I should ask to pick it up in London. There was still time to change my mind. But was it worth it? Like, should I request something that people purposely try to avoid? Would it be safer if I take it in London after my connection flight and check it again? No one does this because it's pointless. Why want something that no one else wants? It's made for the convenience of travelers. Why make it more complicated? But I wanted the inconvenience. I was begging her for this inconvenience until she told me that it was not possible. Not sure if she lied or it was really not possible to get it in London and recheck it. So I was like, okay, then it's decided. I pretty much realized that she wasn't actually asking me where I wanted my luggage. She was just confirming the last destination with me. While she was placing the sticker on my suitcase, I dared to ask one more time, with the most desperate voice you could ever hear. "Do you promise it won't get lost?" Oh my god, I remember that so vividly. I'm pretty sure for a moment I thought she was going to, what do you call now, leave me on scene, but in person. But she was nice enough to smile and say, "Yes, I promise." I'm positive she was convinced that there was something really wrong with me. I actually really want to ask someone who works at the airport, is it more likely to lose a bag when you send it straight to your last destination, if you have more than one flight, or it's more likely to lose it when you request it at the destination in between and recheck it? Not sure which one makes more sense to me and which one sounds riskier, but anyway, I almost wanted to kind of make this lady sign something, a disclaimer or whatever, that my luggage is going to be delivered, because I don't just believe freaking empty talk, I don't believe empty promises, especially from strangers. I'm sorry. I want to document what I was promised, and I want to hold someone responsible if things go wrong. I guess I have a major trust issues at this point, but major airport trust issues. I want people to take responsibility for their words, If something happens, how do I even prove that I spoke to someone? How do I prove that she promised me that they're not gonna lose it? So then I realized I was, taking too long, and people behind me were getting kind of impatient, which in Bulgarian means they were probably already cursing me like 3 generations behind. So I was like, okay, let's go. She promised, I'll believe her. And in fact, they didn't lose my luggage. Everything was fine. The stress was for nothing. But, second story, the year after that, I was traveling to San Francisco again for vacation this time. And I was so excited that I basically packed the same amount of clothes as I did for my 5-month internship. And this time, I was only going for 3 or 4 weeks. But, you know, I'm a woman and I'm every woman. Doo-doo-doo. Anyway, I'm a woman and yes, I need all the outfits for a long trip. And yes, I will bring tons of unnecessary stuff and tons of things that I will not touch or are inappropriate for the weather. But I will still bring them. So I was on my way to San Francisco again, excited for my 3-4 weeks of vacation, and I found myself one more time at the counter checking my luggage in. This time I tried to hold my questions and I tried to not make anyone promise me anything. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to play cool. It was time to let go of the Air France trauma, guys. So I boarded my first flight and I was on my way. I was going to have a connecting flight in Doha and then fly to Chicago and then fly to San Francisco. This was, by the way, probably my longest trip to the US. I think it was like 30 plus something hours. But anyway, since I was not landing directly at my final destination, I had to pick up my luggage at my first stop in the States, which was Chicago. And I landed there. I was already at the baggage claim and I was ready to fight for the first row, which means I wanted to be at the front, closer to the baggage claim, ready to grab my suitcases once I see them. But O'Hare International Airport in Chicago is so goddamn busy. It's one of the busiest airports in the world. So they have staff taking care of grabbing the luggage from the baggage claim and organizing it on the floor. And my plan wasn't going to work. I remember they were organizing everything by color, so we could only look at the color we need, which definitely helps. This, prevents people from confusion and pushing each other. Everyone pretty much stays and waits, and checks the pile they need to check, which means the color they're looking for. For me, this helped only partially because I had one big black suitcase, good luck recognizing it, and one baby blue carry-on that I checked in. So I was squeezing my eyes trying to recognize my suitcases and I was getting anxious already. And it takes so little for me to freak out. I literally show up at the baggage claim and if I don't see my luggage in a minute, I already start thinking that it got lost. It's one of the worst feelings ever. You're waiting to see something that may never show up. And it's stupid to get freaked out so quickly because there's so many pieces of luggage for every flight, especially on overseas flights where people are allowed to take more bags. So imagine almost 200 people from one flight with 2 checked-in pieces of luggage each. That would take forever. And that's what happened. I was standing there desperately waiting for my luggage to pop out and there were tons of black ones coming. So my black suitcase might have been there already and I had no idea. I was mostly looking for the smaller one I checked because the color was easier to recognize, as I said, baby blue. And also I purposely put the heaviest and, respectively the most expensive and important things in it. This gave me the opportunity to, fill the bigger suitcase with only clothes, which meant extra room for clothes and harder to reach the limit when it comes to pounds. All the heavy shit I put in the smaller suitcase because there is no way it could exceed the weight as the size wouldn't allow me to physically put too much, It was all a strategy. And there it was, my baby blue carry-on was, heading towards me on the baggage claim. I could see it. I could recognize it. Suddenly, I felt an urge to run and get it. I got worried that, someone else is going to grab it. I really can't explain it. I started sneaking around people, pushing them, and making my way, in between people, even those who were organizing the luggage. Like, I wanted to grab my suitcase first. I acted like I was insane, honestly. Like, I probably look like a person who has never been at an airport before. And even then, by seeing what other people do, it's your first time, you would probably just stay and wait. You just do what other people do. But I couldn't. I had to take my luggage. I was running towards it. I was close. But suddenly, a person from the staff stopped me and said, to wait for his coworkers. So I calmed down and waited until they gave it to me. And I was like, okay, one done, one left. I still needed my bigger black suitcase. That was gonna be tough considering 80% of the people had the same size and color of luggage, I think it was 20 or more minutes later, and I still didn't have my second suitcase. Bags kept coming, and mine was not there. I was getting more and more anxious. I was having, flashbacks from 2013. I was imagining the baggage claim stopping and me having to go file a claim for lost luggage again. More and more minutes were passing, and more people were getting worried. A group of girls next to me were still waiting for their bags as well, so we kind of started talking and, calming each other up. It was nice to talk to someone in a moment like this. It was definitely cool to exchange a few words with someone who was going through the same thing. I knew if the baggage claim was to stop and there were no more bags coming, there was someone I could, bitch about this with, and we could go file claims together, I guess. I wasn't afraid anymore, kind of. However, in a few minutes, the girls spotted their bags and happily confirmed that, they had everything they were waiting for. And I was jealous, I'm not gonna lie. I was jealous and a little sad. I had no friends there anymore. I was by myself. We didn't share a miserable moment anymore. They were happy, but I was still miserable, waiting for my luggage. I guess, because we kind of created a bond over this, they felt for me and they said, okay, we can stay until you get yours too. And I was blown away. I wanted to hug them. They already had their bags, but they were willing to stay and wait with me just to make sure I will get mine too. And that was very sweet of them. It was so sweet, and it meant so much to me at the moment. I don't really think they realized how much better they made me feel. Instead of going to their next gate and having more time before their next boarding, they preferred to be with a stranger for no reason. So God bless you girls, whoever you were and wherever you are today. And they stayed with me, and in a few minutes, oh miracle, my suitcase. And again, I ran like a maniac, and I didn't miss it from my sight for a goddamn second. And I was all set. We said thank you and goodbye and parted ways. I was so happy and so relieved, and I know this may sound like BS to you, but staying next to the baggage claim and waiting for your bags equals to torture for me. I wish I could somehow improve this whole part of traveling. I wish I could avoid it, because honestly, this is the only part of traveling that makes me anxious. I don't feel anxious about anything else travel related. I don't hate going to the airport. I don't hate the commute. I don't mind being by myself. I'm not afraid of TSA or my bags being open and searched. The only thing I really despise is waiting for my bag at the baggage claim. And that's why I try to avoid this horrible feeling by almost never traveling with more than a carry-on, unless of course the trip is long. You guys know how sometimes due to, limited overhead bin storage, they make you check in your carry-on? I'm like, hell no. Like, I didn't fit anything in my carry-on, so I can avoid checking a bag for you to ask me to do it anyway. No, I didn't agree to that. I'm sorry. I know if there's no room, you have no choice and you have to give it, but I'm trying to avoid that at any cost, literally. I even have a prepared speech for the times when I'm going to be part of the last group of people boarding and they will make me check in my carry-on. I listen very carefully before every flight when they announce how many people they need to volunteer with their bags, and I'm like, please, I'm gonna pay you $20. Just go check in your carry-on so there is more space for me inside and I don't have to check mine. So if you ever see me at a gate waiting and you can help me with that, I would be happy to give you $20 or $50 so you can check in your bag and there is room for mine. And I'm not even joking. Every time they announce the 20 people who have to volunteer and give their bags, otherwise the last group to board the plane will have to do it, my heart stops. Like, I'm carefully observing how many people agreed to give their bags. I'm counting them. I'm praying for them to reach the number needed so I don't have to give mine. And thank God, for a lot of people, it's kind of a favor to check in their carry-on. They don't want to drag their bag and deal with finding a place for it on the plane. So for them, it works perfectly, to give it and to get at the baggage claim. Sometimes they even check bags and they store them somewhere different from the cargo, basically in the cabin. And you don't have to go to the baggage claim to take them. They will be waiting for you on your way out of the plane, which sounds good because you don't have to waste time and wait at the baggage claim. But at the same time, I don't like the idea of having my carry-on displayed somewhere. far away from me while people are walking around. If someone takes it before I made it out of the plane, there will be multiple people walking around it. How do these people know that the right people are taking the right luggage? Is it just me, or this is riskier? Maybe I'm too paranoid at this point. But yeah, at least at the baggage claim, you get to wait with everyone and you can see your bag coming. In this case, you save the time and effort to go to the baggage claim, but you risk someone taking your bag and no one will even see and know. You know what I mean? So technically at the baggage claim, you can see if someone grabs your bag accidentally or intentionally. Good luck seeing someone doing that in the sleeve while you're trying to get out of the plane and you're still on row 15. Or, I don't know, maybe this is only in my mind and I'm really getting paranoid, but it is what it is. And now, talking about all of this and reminding myself of different examples and situations, I am freaking out a little bit because at the end of this month, as you guys know, I'm going to Alaska and there will be almost no way for me to fit everything I want to take in a carry-on. My trip is not that long, but everything will be, winter clothes and some really big and warm stuff. So I highly doubt I will be able to fit them in a carry-on. On top of that, I am allowed to bring one checked-in piece for free on all my flights with Alaska, although I never do it because I prefer to not take advantage of the deal, but to be safe, that my luggage is right above my head. So I'll have to think about this. I will either have to come up with some really good packing strategy to be able to take everything in just a carry-on, or maybe I will just put all my clothes on myself and I will just travel looking like Yeti. That's an option too. But from what I see from now, I might have to check in a luggage piece. So with 3 flights to reach Alaska and 3 flights back, that will be a lot of anxiety for me to deal with. And yeah, I just hope that this time the person at the counter can guarantee me again that they're not gonna lose it. And meanwhile, if you guys have any tips, any suggestions, or any stories that are similar to mine, I would love to hear them. Please don't leave me thinking that I'm the only one psychopath who freaks out every time they don't see their luggage the first 15 seconds on the baggage claim. Please get embarrassed with me. Tell me your stories. Tell me what you do. Tell me what's your biggest fear when you travel. What's your biggest nervous breakdown, and I would gladly read it in the next episode. So be part of the show, guys, and thank you so much for making this possible. Thank you for your questions. Maybe next time we can do another Q&A. I have some questions piled up. Meanwhile, let me know if there's something specific you want to hear about. I'll keep sharing my stories and my experience, and I hope to see you for the next episode, which is landing shortly. Bye bye, bon voyage!